Good evening, everybody of the DFS Army. This is your coach and your buddy Choppadong. I want to bring you a video series this time, not just a one-stop shop video, but a video series this time that's going to cover from front to back daily fantasy baseball. You notice that we're part of the DFS Army. This is MLB 101. Which site should I play on and why? But before we dive into that, I want to give you quickly a little bit of a background on me in case you're tuning in for the very first time and tell you what this course is for, and then we'll move on. As far as I'm concerned, I wasn't always a coach and contributor inside the Army. We're always looking for new talent. I'm just the guy holding the chair right now. As we started this site a couple of years ago, or Kevin the Football Geek started from his blog to become a website, a few of us inside the Slack forums started talking a little bit more on a daily basis, interacting with the new guys, kind of helping them out, showing them around. Whatever it is, we just stepped up. We're friendly people, and people started gravitating towards a few of us, towards some of the content that we were sharing, some of the advice we were giving. It seemed to be helping. We were getting positive feedback. We kind of grew from there. We started writing articles. We started making some videos here and there. We started getting out and about on Twitter. We started producing daily fantasy players that were winning on a regular basis, and it's just kind of grown from there. Like I said, there's always new spots opening up. We're always finding new talent. And I just kind of carved out a role, or had a role carved out for me. Here I am. So I'm not a professional speaker. I'm not a guy that does this for a living. So you're going to bear with some rough stuff, some stuttering, some stammering, whatever. It's just the way it's going to be. And we're going to get the content to you as quickly as we can anyway. So let's charge ahead and explain what this course is for. This course is for new guys wanting to take it to the next level. Our whole community is designed around guys wanting to take it to the next level, whether they're intermediates or new guys or what. So intermediates, you could probably get something out of this too. But the newest guy that hasn't played daily fantasy baseball before, that wonders, hey, I selected this guy, you thought he was in a good matchup, he got a 0, what did I do wrong? Sometimes the answer is nothing. Sometimes the answer is honestly nothing. We just need to get you the confidence in a process, in a fundamental process that builds competitive lineups day in and day out. In the Army, we don't sell you lineups. We don't give you lineups. We may give you some opinions with some player picks, but you're on your own, baby. And that way, when you win, that is your lineup, and you take pride in that. And we will tweet that sucker out, or we will share it on social media, and we will brag about you all day long, because we take more pride in our members winning than we almost do in winning ourselves. So this is a course for you, so you can learn how to build these competitive lineups and no longer question, what did I do wrong? What happened? You will know, and then be able to individualize this process for yourself and hopefully give back to us and teach some of us. I'm not going to pretend like I know everything. The course is going to cover quite a few things, and we're going to discuss things like reading Vegas lines, how to pick pitchers, which stats are critical, which contest should I enter, lineup building principles, stacking, correlation, all that good stuff. And we're going to do it in a clear and concise manner, hopefully constantly forging ahead until we get that process locked into place. What I'm going to do here today is I'm going to start off with the first set, which is the scoring on the sites, and explain to you a little bit of the nuance between the two, so it sets up what the real nuance is to me between the major fantasy sites. We've got FanDuel is FD, DraftKings is DK, and FantasyDraft is FD2, as we affectionately refer to it inside the DFS Army. You've got your singles, doubles, triples, home runs, RBIs, runs scored, stolen base, walk, all that stuff accumulates points for you. I think we all understand that. We also understand that outs don't give us any points, so outs are bad. We can't, if you get a guy who doesn't get on base, he can't do you any good. He can't steal a base. He can't score a run. And in real life, he can't even create havoc on the base paths, putting a little pressure on the defense and making them screw up. So that stands to reason he shouldn't get any points for making it out. Now, singles, doubles, triples obviously go up in point value as they go, the game gets a little bit more powerful, or as you hit a ball a little bit more powerful, you're going to be rewarded with more points. And what I want you to see is that the home run is obviously the creme de la creme. And again, it goes without saying, I know I'm being the master of the obvious, but what I want to set up for you is what I kind of look for when I'm looking for hitters in fantasy baseball. I'm looking for guys that don't make outs, guys that don't give me zeros. Those guys, there's a statistic, a key stat called OBP, or on base percentage. How often does a guy get on base? That is a good stat in and of itself to tell me who's not going to give me a lot of zeros. I also want guys that get on base with power. guys that hit home runs, guys that drive in multiple runs with a double or a triple, balls to the wall, balls in the corner, things like that. Those are the guys that are really going to rack up the fantasy points. Now, it's kind of a sliding scale. If I have, let's say, a stat we'll discuss called OPS, it's on base plus slugging percentage. We have another one inside the Army that we've created called OBISO, which is on base plus ISO. What these stats have is an on base element and a power element. You combine them together and add them up, and you get an elite number. For OPS, it's widely known around the league that 1,000 is the elite number for OPS. So again, it's a sliding scale because it's combined with on base percentage and power. So if a guy gets on base an awful lot but doesn't have a lot of power, he can still achieve that 1,000 mark that we look for. Now, if a guy does not get on base but has a ton of power, does a lot of damage when he does get on base, that guy can also achieve that same 1,000 but do it in a different way. So again, it's a sliding scale. As one category comes up, the other one is allowed to go down a little bit. We can live with it because he's at least excelling in one area. And if that area of on-base percentage starts to fall from 400 to 300 to 250, that OPS or that slugging percentage number, that power indicator, had better come up to balance that other number falling. It better balance that out, or else the guy doesn't get on base enough and doesn't hit for enough power, or he gets on base sort of but doesn't do it with any power, and that doesn't help me in fantasy sports. There's your big key factor for your batters and what you're looking for to win in daily fantasy events. You're looking for guys that get on base and do so with a lot of power. If you can match those two up, bang, you're a winner. When we slide over here to pitchers, we'll take a look at the pitchers on the same sites, and we're going to find innings pitched, quality start, win, loss, earned runs, strikeouts, hit by pitch, walks, hits, complete games, no-hitters. Call these bonuses. Complete games and no-hitters are just not very predictable. They're just a bonus when your pitcher gets one on those two sites. Same with wins, honestly. Wins are a very powerful source of points, but they're not that predictable. A win is determined oftentimes by my bullpen. I can't control that. A win is determined by my run support. I can't control that, especially if I'm in the American League and don't even get to swing a bat myself as a pitcher. So those are not very predictable categories, so they're kind of bonus points. The predictable categories for a pitcher are his innings pitched. How long does he go? And I know technically your coach can pull you early and blah, blah, blah. But the better pitcher you are, typically the deeper you go into games. The same with earned runs. You don't give up a lot of earned runs, that's going to help your score. And especially true of strikeouts. This is a power game. It's a power hitting game. It's a power pitching game. The guys that strike a lot of batters out rack up a lot of points in fantasy baseball. So what I can control as a pitcher is my innings pitched and generally speaking, my strikeouts. If I do that well, I'm going to score a lot of fantasy points. Wins will come, bonuses will come, etc., etc., etc. And between the two, between batters and pitchers, I will tell you, pitchers are your most predictable source of points in fantasy baseball. Just like a quarterback in football, the pitcher has the ball in his hand at the start of every play. He has the most control over the outcome of an event, or a hit or a strikeout or whatever. Therefore, we typically don't really screw around with those pitchers and get too cute with them because when it comes to assembling our lineups, because this is the most consistent source of points that we have. Another thing I will mention for you down here, if you're playing between DraftKings and FanDuel, you do not have any trouble with base hits, hit by pitches, any of that kind of stuff. Your batter will get some points for it, but your pitcher does not get penalized for it. On DraftKings, he does. He loses a little more than half a point each time he gives up one of those singles, doubles, walks, whatever. So a stat that we do not pay attention to on FanDuel nearly as much as we do on DraftKings is the WHIP stat. WHIP, walks plus hits per innings pitched. That is a good tie-breaking stat, and it's a good stat in general for a DraftKings pitcher when we're trying to determine how much activity does the guy allow on base. Because think about it, if he allows base runners like crazy, he's not that far from giving up a lot of runs. So it works pretty well. Guys that like DraftKings really kind of like paying attention to that part. But putting these two together, where do they lead us? In roster construction, let's talk about these three sites and their rosters, and let's compare and contrast maybe the advantages of one site over the other. And maybe that will start to tell you which site you should play on and why, okay? When I look at a FanDuel lineup, the first thing I'm going to notice is one pitching slot. There's one slot for everyone else, and there's 3 outfield slots like a normal baseball team that goes onto the field, but there's only 1 pitching slot. So when a pitcher is my most consistent source of points, I can't afford to screw up there when I've only got 1 shot at it, and I can only pick 1 guy. Generally speaking, that's going to lead you on FanDuel to paying up for the pitching spot most nights. And in a lot of cases, it's going to be the tip-top priced guy. I mean, Clayton Kershaw is the tip-top priced guy for a reason. He's one of the best pitchers of our lifetime. And in daily fantasy, it stands to reason he's one of the best. So a lot of guys don't screw around. They just take him and they just move on because they can't afford to screw up at pitcher, because that is the most consistent production and the most consistent source of points. And it's going to be the most points out of any given player on their team night in and night out. So that's why guys are paying up so high for pitcher on these sites. The other thing to mention is in the batters, they don't have multi-position eligibility. It's 1 shot. If the guy is a first baseman on FanDuel, he's a first baseman. You can only roster 1 first baseman on FanDuel. Shortstop, same thing. It doesn't matter if you want to roster, Lucas Duda and Paul Goldschmidt. You can't on FanDuel. You can on the other sites. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You jump over to DraftKings, and despite the salary and the salary caps and whatnot and the pricing discrepancies, that's another one, but we'll save that for a little bit different time, because that's something you can get used to when you play on the same site over and over again. You're going to notice immediately on DraftKings 2 different pitching spots. That brings a little bit different element into your lineup construction, because now if you're going to pay all the way up for a Clayton Kershaw, you have to sacrifice at the pitcher somewhere to be able to afford any bats at all in your lineup. Most guys don't want to pay all the way down for what can only be referred to as a gas can for a pitcher, somebody so flammable they can wreck their night. So they're going to kind of sacrifice a little bit at the top of the pitching pool so that they can come up off of the bottom with their second pitcher. And you're going to find them start to gravitate more towards the middle, taking 2 pitchers, maybe not extreme top and bottom, it's somewhere in the middle, and some just dead in the middle. That's what you see a lot of on DraftKings. And it's a salary cap balancing method that really opens up some nuance for, do you want to go, high and sort of high, or high and low, or low and low, or middle. What do you want to do on a given night? It depends on the bats you want. It really opens up another element to roster construction. So some people actually really, really like that aspect. They feel that gives them a little bit more of an edge over their competition. When you look at the other positions, there are single positions, just like FanDuel had, but these guys carry some multi-position eligibility. In a lot of cases, a Matt Davidson can be a third baseman or a first baseman. And Cody Bellinger certainly can be an outfielder or a first baseman over on DraftKings. So, a little bit of a tidbit for you. If you look at the points produced by position, the whole position, top to bottom in the league, catcher's generally your weaker spot, second base, shortstop, generally your weaker spots. Your more powerful spots are usually outfield, third base, and certainly first base. First base is generally speaking where your sluggers go. And they are the ones that produce the vast majority of your fantasy points per position on a given night. So it makes sense that if we have multi-position eligibility, we might want to go looking for some first basemen that qualify for other positions and throw them in there. That's how you end up with a Cody Bellinger and a Matt Davidson and a Joey Votto all in the same lineup. FanDuel, you can't do that if they all play first base. But on DraftKings, you still can. That's another reason a lot of people like DraftKings over FanDuel. It's also another reason why people like FanDuel over DraftKings too, because they don't really like that aspect of the game. But knowing the difference between the sites and what they'll let you do when it comes to building rosters, now you can use those little tips to your advantage and maybe load up on some power when the slate presents itself in that direction. So again, my tip to you, you want to go a little bit further into the flexible roster build, you run over to FantasyDraft. Same 2 pitchers, so the same thing applies as far as, do I go high and low or middle, or what do I do? But now you've cut away the catcher, second baseman requirement, and it's just 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, 2 utility spots. Put together the best team, boys. Let's see who wins. I kind of like this general build myself because it allows for people to make a lot of mistakes. People have forgotten that little nuance I just told you over on DraftKings about being able to cram as many first basemen into a lineup as you can. There are also other value spots that open up where a guy isn't going to do any damage at near league minimum salary, so you can bury him in your infield somewhere and then go load up in your outfield or in your utility spots. If you see by this lineup right here, I've got Logan Morrison, who's a first baseman. I don't know if Corey Dickerson has played some first base or not. It might have been a while back, but Miguel Sano plays third base. I don't have to bury him in the infield if I like a couple of these other guys. I can stick him out here in the outfield if I'm having trouble with outfield that night and put some power out there. And then, of course, my utility is both first baseman. So I've got 1, 2, an infielder in the outfield, possibly 3, but certainly a third first baseman in this lineup as well. What I want you also to take note of is that when it comes to lining all these guys up, you don't see a catcher in that lineup, do you? You don't really see, you do see a second baseman in Ramirez and a shortstop in Segura, but I could avoid that if I wanted to. If I wanted to really take for some power, I can avoid those if I want and take some different positions that typically have more power. So you've got flexibility when it comes to fantasy draft that you don't have when it comes to DraftKings, but you still have more flexibility on DraftKings than you do on FanDuel, where it's the most rigid of the sites. So again, take it or leave it, whichever way you want to play, there's the site for you. Okay? So that really sort of wraps up what I wanted to cover when it comes to the sites, the differences, the nuances between the sites, at least as far as to get you kind of up to speed. What we're going to do is we're going to use that as a building block, and we're going to start attacking a little bit deeper concepts, like reading the Vegas lines and understanding the line movement from ballpark factors, weather, how it affects DFS. And we're going to start using these broad-based background knowledge topics, and we're going to start pushing these into lineup construction and try and teach you guys how to put together, pick the best matchups from a given slate, and then push these into your lineups so that we can hopefully make you a better player. If you are a VIP, this course series is designed for you in the DFS Army as my way of giving back to you guys and your loyalty and your support and everything you guys have done with, basically your confidence in me as a coach and whatnot. So this is my gift back to you. But if you're a guest and you're viewing this for the first time, I want to include a coupon code WIN for you to come inside the DFS Army. Go to dfsarmy.com/ref/3/ and then just jump in here, sign up, become a VIP, use that coupon code WIN, and come and take a look for 7 days free of charge. Come take a look at the spreadsheets, the tools, the optimizer that we have for other sports, for the coaching and the Slack channel forums and the content and the articles. And some of these articles are so in-depth I can't even begin to write something like that myself, but they're VIP only, and they're absolutely phenomenal at helping you pick apart a baseball slate, and we have them coming for other sports too. So I encourage you to come in and at least kill the curiosity, take a look. You might find out we are the community for you, because for the price that we charge, man, you are not going to find anything better out there. I have heard from people who have been subscribers to our competitors and have come in and said you guys are the absolute best. So once again, to my VIPs, thank you. To guests, please, I encourage you, dfsarmy.com/ref/3. Come in and use the coupon code WIN to check us out. Hopefully you guys are all back for MLB 102 in a few days when we talk about those bullet points you see before you. Thanks again, guys. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.